Welcome to Comic Sans, the podcast about comics for those who are sans knowledge. I'm Yen, I'm the comic half of this show, and with me as always is...
Nat, N-A-T, that's how you spell my name. Don't wear it out. I am the sans half. I will always be the sans half.
Why does this sound like spoken word poetry? Nat, why don't you tell me something you've been enjoying lately?
For the first time, I think I'm going to probably make use of our change of this question to expand beyond consumption of media. Because something that I have been enjoying lately, together with my wife and my dogs, we've been enjoying the British countryside in the summer. You know, last weekend we went on a little walk in Heaton Park where Oasis had performed, but they've now left. And now it's just a park again. And it was lovely. We saw some cows. My dog saw some cows for the first time and they went crazy. They went feral.
Oh, what do you think they thought it was?
I think they don't know what it is. Like they just have never seen such a large animal in their life before. And so to them, it's just like a monster. Anyway, Yen, what have you been enjoying?
I'm enjoying this podcast called Off Panel, which is hosted by the magazine Sketched by David Harper. And it's all these wonderful, wonderful interviews with comic book creators. So I really, really recommend it to people if you are interested in hearing straight from the horse's mouth about what some of these creators are thinking. And it's been a great resource for me while I'm preparing for these episodes, but it's also a lot of fun to hear from these writers and artists who you would otherwise only have heard at like a con.
I heard there's another comics podcast that people can hear, you know, about different from comic book writers and creators and experts.
Oh, what's that?
Comic Sans.
I don't know.
No.
Don't know it.
I heard it isn't very good, but you know.
Kind of derivative as a name. I bet they have a bonus show that has an awful name too.
Exactly. This is a great time for me to plug the Comic Sans after show. If you want to get more of this show that, you know, isn't very good, check out the Comic Sans after show, which is on the Unless Productions Patreon, where if you subscribe, you can get access to all our behind the scenes content, extended chats with comic book writers like Molly Mendoza, Ren Galeno, and I believe coming up very soon, there's going to be a really cool extra bonus content with Yen and I. So if you want to check that out, go onto that website, which will be linked below. And support them, because, you know, they really need it. They need all the support they can get, those guys.
They really do. They really, really do. If you're listening to the show for the first time ever, what we do on this show is I bring a comic to the table, tell Nat a little bit about it. He goes and reads a section of it, and then we come back and talk about it. And today, we're wading into territory that I'm not the most familiar with either.
Ooh.
I've read the comic. I love the comic. But it's about something that I'm a little of a distance from. Nat, what do you know about professional wrestling?
I mean, I won't say I know a lot, but I do have a history with it.
Oh, you do? Let's hear it.
I watched quite a bit of WWE growing up. I played quite a bit on the PlayStation 2 growing up.
Whoa, lore.
I had favorites. I was a big fan of the Hardy Brothers, Swanton Bomb.
Oh man, this is good. Oh, okay. I'm really excited for you.
Did you not know this part of me?
No, I didn't know this.
Did you not know that I went to watch Singapore Pro Wrestling a couple times?
Oh wait, you know what? I do actually know this because I met you after one of the times you went. Like I sat outside the little stadium.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I totally forgot. Well, that's really exciting.
So my experience is kind of back then. I haven't been following, you know, the stories and the lore of WWE through today. But then I kind of rediscovered it a little when I went to watch some Singapore Pro Wrestling. But then again, I wasn't following it. It just went a couple times. Yeah.
So I actually didn't have any of that. I didn't grow up with pro wrestling.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, right.
I don't imagine your mom would have let you watch pro wrestling.
But I also didn't really have access to it, right? Because it requires like TV. At least when we were growing up, it wasn't something that was broadcast online, or at least I didn't have access to that anyway. But it is something that I discovered like later on, mainly through like YouTube clips. Nothing like very, very serious, but things like top 10 RKOs by Randy Orton, which is absolutely my jam. And I've always really wanted to get into it. And I really, if there was a wrestling sans, I would listen to it.
I just love the thought of like that thumbnail appearing on your YouTube feed and you're just like, ooh.
That's exactly what it was. I did not search it for it. I did not look for it. It showed up. They were like, I think he's gonna like this, and they were right. No, if there was wrestling stands, I would totally listen to it because wrestling seems so daunting and difficult to get into because there's just so many years of characters, of faces and heels. But thankfully, we're not going into professional wrestling. Can you imagine if we went in as a tag team? That'd be crazy.
Ooh, dude, we would suck.
No, I'd be okay.
Our name would be Comic Sense.
Yeah, I guess so.
You'd be Comic and I'd be Sense.
What would our signature move be?
Something like where you like regale me. It'd be called regale. Where you whip out a book and then you read it. And then like I would just be like, whoa, and then I'll absorb all the power and then I'll punch the guy.
We both take out a comic book and we're at opposite ends of the diamond. Or the squared circle, as they call it.
And then we run.
We run in and we catch the person in with the books and they get stuck in a panel, right? And then we like open the comic book and they're like there in the page.
And the move will be called Panel X Panel.
That's really good. That's a great magazine, by the way, folks. Big plug for Panel X Panel.
I don't know are you familiar with like the Japanese world of professional wrestling?
Nat, you are really speaking music to my ears right now. Yes, I'm aware of the Japanese and it is going to come up.
Okay, and how ridiculous, because like it's different from WWE where like you have like people who, you know, have like crazy powers where like they do magic or they
No, we'd have to be in the Japanese one, dude. Funny thing is that I was lucky enough to write for Panel X Panel once, and I wrote about the creator we're actually reading today, but not the book that we're going to read. What we're going to read is Do a Powerbomb from 2022 by Daniel Warren Johnson. Colors from Mike Spicer and Rus Wooton on letters. Do a Powerbomb actually was nominated for Best Limited Series and then later won the Eisner for Best Publication for Teens.
Congratulations to everyone involved.
Yeah. Happy belated Eisners to those who celebrate. So Daniel Warren Johnson is a fantastic comic book writer and artist who I actually was lucky enough to speak to when I was in Chicago because he's based in Chicago.
Ooh.
But we'll come back to that. Let's do a little biography first because I think his biographic details are pretty fun. He studied art education under the advice of his parents, though he wanted to go into art. He then started working as a teacher. And when he left teaching, he thought he was going to leave art behind forever.
Oh, no.
And then a bunch of his friends pulled together and bought him a tablet and told him to stick to it for 3 months.
Wow, what nice friends.
Isn't that crazy?
That's crazy.
And then so he started doing freelance design work. And so one of his clients was like a car dealership. And concurrently, he started his first webcomic called Space Mullet. And while he was working on these different freelance jobs, he was committed to completing 2 pages of Space Mullet every week. During this process, he reads this comic book by Donny Cates, who is a pretty famed comic book creator. And he writes him a note and says, "Oh, I really like your work." And Cates checks out Space Mullet and says, "Oh, I'm a fan too." And which eventually leads to when a different artist falls through, Daniel Warren Johnson steps in as the next artist for Donny Cates. And that book's called Ghost Fleet.
Cool.
After Ghost Fleet, he makes this comic book called Extremity with Skybound, published through Image, and also Murder Falcon, also via Skybound through Image. Marvel and DC come calling, and then he does a miniseries called Beta Ray Bill, which is about a horse-looking alien who picks up Thor's hammer and gets Thor's powers.
Nice. That sounds so fun.
Beta Ray Bill is actually a character from like the 70s, but then Daniel Warren Johnson just did his own spin on it. And then he also did this really fantastic book called Wonder Woman Dead Earth, which is like 1,000 years in the future. Wonder Woman is one of the last people alive fighting against an apocalypse. Another book, which I think is very funny, which he co-wrote on, which is called Jurassic League, which is what if the Justice League were dinosaurs?
It just blows my mind that there are these like completely off-tangent parallel universes within the big two. Like, what was the other one? What if someone was Donald Duck?
Yeah. What is...
Like, how? Why? What? Who greenlights these things?
What if Wolverine was Donald Duck was what it was. Yeah.
Wait. So Justice League as dinosaurs. So we're talking like, who's in the Justice League? Wonder Woman?
I'll just name you one of the characters and you'll understand.
Okay.
Batasaurus.
Why are we reading this? I want to read this.
But while he was working on these different books, the big two, he knew that his real goal was to be writing and drawing his own work, right? Returning back to his roots of Extremity and Murder Falcon and Space Mullet, which takes us to Do a Powerbomb in 2022. concurrently with this journey in the comics, right, Daniel Warren Johnson actually also starts getting into wrestling. So what I think is really interesting is that he didn't get into wrestling as a kid. He's not like you, right? He's someone who got into it as an adult because he was around all these other comic book creators who are all really into wrestling. And specifically the thing that got him into it was New Japan Wrestling.
Yes.
And he became really excited about it, especially its big major tournament, the G1 Climax, which is basically like a bracket, right? So it's A versus B, and then A gets to proceed if they win, and then they all go up, and it goes up to the championships, right? Mm-hmm. And it also spoke to his love of manga and anime, right? Because he's really drawn to battle-centric stories.
Right.
How can a fight communicate something else going on? Which is really what wrestling is. How can a physical squabble between these two gentlemen in the ring?
Physical squabble is a terrible way to describe wrestling. I'm so sorry to any wrestling fans. Physical squabble? How about a theatrical brawl?
Yeah, theatrical is perfect. Theatrical is perfect.
I mean, wrestling is theater, in my opinion. It is very much theater.
Yes, absolutely. What's the word? Kayfabe?
Kayfabe, yeah.
Do you want to define it for our listener?
Kayfabe is, I believe, to be the suspension of disbelief surrounding wrestling. Everyone knows it's fake. There's no one in the room who doesn't know it's fake unless maybe you're a child, if you're young. And kayfabe is basically the idea that when someone pretends to be injured, or, you know, is injured but pretends to be more injured than they are, you lean into that suspension of disbelief and you believe that they really are, and you get into the hype of it all. That's what I think kayfabe is.
Yeah, I'd say that's roughly it. I would, from my rudimentary understanding of it, maybe there's a wrestling fan screaming at their phone right now who's going to sub to the Patreon just so they can be closer to us to send us mean notes about how we misdefined kayfabe. Please do that. Maybe we should get more things wrong.
Do you know how I learned this term, Yen?
No, how'd you learn it?
This is a bit of a tangent, but I about a couple months ago, I went to a musical theater conference where they were presenting new musical theater work. And there was this incredible showcase, like a 25-minute excerpt from a musical called Exotic, a Queer Wrestling Fantasia. And it was set in Wales, and it was about this guy who was gay, who was a gay poet, but his grandfather was like a super famous wrestler, and he's kind of like forced to become a wrestler after his grandfather dies, and he feels pressure to continue his legacy. And it's all camp, it's all super funny, but they have a song called Kayfabe, where his best friend, she's like a little lesbian woman who's a huge fan of wrestling, as everyone is in his town, and she's trying to convince him to go into wrestling, even though he's extremely not interested, and she's trying to explain to him that it's basically theater, it's kayfabe, you know, like, and so she has this song about it, and it's quite fun.
Well, it sounds like a lot of fun. Okay, but yeah, I think there's this notion that wrestling is theater, is performance, is actually about emotion, is central to do a Powerbomb, and I think that's like one of the most important aspects of Daniel Warren Johnson's work. It's always about heart. It's never action for action's sake. It's action for emotion, no matter how crazy the action can get. In his creator-owned work, Extremity, it's about a high-altitude clan war told through the perspective of a young warrior grieving her mother. Murder Falcon is about an anthropomorphic 6-foot-tall cyborg falcon who loves heavy metal and a retired guitarist grappling with his terminal illness.
Wow, that sounds cool.
It rocks. I love Murder Falcon. For Panel X Panel, I wrote a piece about the ending of Murder Falcon, which I really, really love. I think that's what makes Daniel Warren Johnson, like, that's why he always sticks to landing, because you can do high octane action, you can go as big as you want, but if there's nothing that your story's really about, you're just going to fizzle out at the end. But because his stories are actually about something, no matter how bizarre and zany things get, there's still a core that you can come back to. I'm not going to tell you what the core of Do a Powerbomb is, because you're going to discover it very quickly. As I mentioned, I got to speak to Daniel Warren Johnson in Chicago because I had this assignment, which was interview an artist or someone you really admire. And I told one of my other professors, Beth Hetland, who's been on the show several times.
Shout out Beth.
Shout out Beth. And I tell Beth about this assignment. And Beth is like, oh, do you want to talk to a comic book creator? And I was like, oh, I'd love to. And she was like, okay, let me think. What about Dan Johnson? And I was like, Dan Johnson? Who's that? And she's like, oh, I went to school with him, but he's pretty big now. And I was like, wait, do you mean Daniel Warren Johnson? And she was like, oh yeah, I forgot he goes by that now. And so the two of us took the L train and we went over to Daniel Warren Johnson's house and spoke to him. And I got to ask him all these questions about his process, about how he got into art. And the one question, the burning question I had was, how do you merge your off-the-wall zaniness with heartfelt character drama? How do I look at your page turns and go from this is so sick and radical to like almost tearing up? And I can't remember exactly how he worded it because I was just like too nervous trying to jot everything down. But what I remember roughly he said was, that's life, isn't it? Life is about craziness, and it's about sadness, and it's about finding things funny, and it's about finding immense joy in places where there shouldn't be.
And it's about those two things coexisting on different sides of the same page.
Exactly. And specifically in Do a Powerbomb within the squared circle. So Nat, you're going to be reading issue 1 of Do a Powerbomb, the last 4 pages of issue 2, and then issue 3.
Okay. Very specific.
Yes, very specific. So once again, Nat's reading issues 1, a little bit of the end of issue 2, and then issue 3 of Do a Powerbomb by Daniel Warren Johnson, Mike Spicer, and Rus Wooton. Into the ring you go. What do they say? Well, how do you launch? How does a wrestling match start?
Bing, 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 bing.
Welcome back, everyone, from the squared circle of Do a Powerbomb. Welcome back, Nat. Well, how was your time in the ring?
This is crazy. I think, oh man, I think hands down, I was going to say this might be, but I think this is the best comic I've ever read.
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised.
Kidding. It's so good. There were so many moments where I literally gasped. Like the twist at the end of issue 2, even at the middle of issue 1. Okay, and I'm going to say up front, genuinely, if you have not read this yet and you are thinking of reading it, stop listening right now, because we're going to go into some heavy spoilers that I think will ruin the reading experience for you.
Maybe not ruin, it'll compromise, but truly you'll be doing a disservice to yourself if you don't experience the page turn that leads to the final page of issue 2. The final page of issue 2 is bonkers.
So yes, please just go and read it if you haven't, okay? And then come back and listen, okay? Please come back. Let's talk about it.
Make sure you come back. Make sure you come back. Okay, Nat, what are your 5 words?
In the same way that I delivered my first word for A Map to the Sun by Sloan Leong, I'm going to deliver this word in this manner. Page turns! There's some crazy page turns in this book. I mean, like, it's such a fundamental part of the comic book reading experience. When you set me up by talking about how you asked Daniel Warren Johnson about how he does his page turns, I was like, how good can they be? And I was like, oh, okay. Okay, page turns.
Okay, page turns. I see you, page turns.
Second word. This is also maybe a bit of a cop-out because we talked about this in the opening, but I'm going to say kayfabe because there's something I want to elaborate on about how the medium of pro wrestling translates onto the page. And I think kayfabe and how that manifests in this medium is really interesting. So I'm going to say kayfabe. Third word, it's heart-wrenching. It's a heart-wrenching book. There's just so many layers that I did not expect going into a book about wrestling. Fourth word I'll use is legacy.
Great word.
It's so funny that there's so much in common with the musical that I described to you.
Oh yeah, true.
There's so much, about. Yeah. We'll get into it. But legacy is a big part of it. But yeah, legacy and wanting to either continue or in some ways make right, an unfinished legacy or complete an unfinished legacy. It's a big part of the narrative. And my last word, I don't think it's gonna mean anything. It's not deep at all, but I just gotta say it. Orang abang.
That's so funny. You read it as Malay.
How would you read it? Orang abang.
I think that's what it's intended to be. I think it's intended to be like orangabang.
Nah. It's orang abang. Which basically, to translate, firstly to explain just quickly, that is the name of the tag team duo, the first tag team duo that Lona and I can't even explain it. Okay, man, it's an orangutan. It's a pair of orangutans in this crazy world, wrestling orangutans. And orang abang in Malay means people, older brother. It doesn't really make sense together. I don't think it's a thing that people say in the Malay language, but
that's why I'm pretty sure it's orangabang.
No, orang abang.
So let me recap for our reader what we've read, and you are going to be confused by some of the items I'm about to put together in sequence. In issue 1, Luna Steel Rose watches her mother, Yua Steel Rose, face off against the eternal heel Cobra Sun. This is a televised match between Yua Steel Rose, said to be the best in the world at what she does. One of the best pro wrestlers there is.
And it's a championship match. So Yua Steel Rose is the defending champion. Yes.
Yeah. And during the match, Cobra-san attempts a move on Yua Steel Rose, slips off the rope, and she unfortunately passes away. It's really tragic.
That really catches me off guard because she gets
You do
injured.
not expect it.
She lands on her head, and then we get cut to the emergency room where the dad and Lona and the uncle are waiting in the emergency room, and then the dad just comes out and says she's dead, and we're like, what?
Yeah, it's crazy because this is issue 1 again, right? This is where we're just getting into it. And then we cut to 10 years later where Lona is trying to make her own name as a professional wrestler, but her Uncle Blood, who is
Also a wrestler.
Yua's brother, who's also a wrestler, refuses to take her on because of a deal he made with her dad, who has basically tried to bar her from wrestling, and the two of them have a very strained relationship now because of the death of his wife and her mother. Very tragic domestic situation. Enter Willard Necroton. I'm going to use the wrestling announcer's voice. Enter Willard Necroton. A necromancer / satanic figure who lives in the pits of hell. A multi-dimensional being who offers Yuna a chance to participate in his tag team tournament. And if she wins, she gets the belt and her mother will come back to life.
Intergalactic tag team tournament, may I add.
Yeah.
From just people from all around the galaxy.
Something that Nat doesn't get in issue 2 because we skipped over it is this great moment where Lona says to Willard, but pro wrestling, it's scripted. The outcome is predetermined. Willard stares at her and then he bursts into laughter. Ha ha ha! Good one, Lona Steel Rose. Talented and funny. I love it. So you picked up on that later in issue 3,
yeah,
right?
in issue 3, they kind of made it... They made it clear that clearly this Willard guy thinks that wrestling on Earth is real because he only sees what's televised.
But also in every other planet, wrestling is real. Earth
Yes.
is the only planet where wrestling is fake.
Yes.
At the end of issue 2, these are the pages that Nat read. He didn't get to read the whole thing, but I'm sure he's going to go back and do it. But Lona goes and approaches Cobra-san because she needs a tag team partner. And it turns out Willard has already approached Cobra-san to participate in his intergalactic tag team tournament. And he's very reluctant to join her because she's green. He wants her to get out of it, whatever. He doesn't want to be involved. But eventually, Lona wins him over and he agrees. She plays into his guilt and he says, fine, okay, let's do this thing.
And so Lona guilt trips Cobra-san into coming, saying, you killed my mom. This is a chance for you to right the wrong.
This is what Nat was saying about like trying to undo the wrong that was done.
Yeah, yeah.
And in the last 2 pages, it's Lona calling her dad to tell her that she's going away for a while and she wants to finish her mom's dream. And we see her dad answering the phone and he's talking. He keeps trying to tell her something. And she says, I need to talk. I just need to tell you what I'm going to do. And then he says, okay, be careful, and hangs up. And then we see him where he is in his own apartment.
Page turn!
Insane reveal. This is the spoiler. He is standing in front of a table with the Cobra-san mask on it because it turns out that Cobra-san is Lona's dad.
Crazy!
It's actually really funny because this moment was spoiled to me by Daniel Warren Johnson.
Oh.
Because I think issue 1, I think the run had finished, but I hadn't read issue 2 yet. I'd only read issue 1. I couldn't get a hold of issue 2 for some reason. And then he's like, oh yeah, and then the whole thing's really about, this father and daughter. And I was like, father? What? And I think that was a really unique experience to be spoiled by the creator.
Yeah, I think that's the only time where it's okay to have it spoiled.
Truly. And then in issue 3, let me just get this over with quickly. They go into Necroton's castle. They prepare for the match. They go to a bar. They almost get into a bar fight. We see one of the funniest panels I think we've ever seen.
Was it when Orang Abang shows up?
No, it's okay, I'll tell you later. And then Orangabang interrupts the bar fight so that they can have a fair match tomorrow. And you discover that every single one of the tag teams in this tournament are doing it to bring someone back to life.
Of course. Yeah.
And so the stakes are really high for everyone. And then we get this wonderful 2-page spread where we see the 8 tag teams. And it's just amazing stuff.
Straight out of a video game, straight out of like Tekken or like Street Fighter or...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then they, Steel Sun, which is now their name, their tag team name, Steel Sun, face off against Orangabang, and they manage to eke out a win. and then they prepare for the rest of the tournament. And that's really where we leave off. Where do you want to start, Nat? Where do you want to start?
What I want to start?
Okay, actually, I do have a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you know that we've actually read Daniel Warren Johnson on the show before?
Nope. I mean, are you surprised that I can't remember? What have we read?
It's about a character who has a lot of heart.
So many of the books we've read have characters with a lot of heart.
You've encountered this character recently, not in the show.
Totoro.
He was in a movie.
Yeah, I know Warren Johnson removes his mask and his Miyazaki.
He was in a movie.
Superman? Superman! Oh, Superman Red and Blue.
Yeah, Red and Blue. Yeah, that amazing comic. And actually, if you go back and read that, you'll see, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. Very similarly emotional books.
I think that was in season 1.
That was a really, really early episode. I mean, that's years ago that we read that.
But that was a great comic. Again, like you're right, it was a superhero comic with lots of action, but not action for action's sake because it had a lot of heart in it as well.
And I think that's something that Daniel Warren Johnson has talked about because he's worked in creator-owned and he's worked in like licensed characters. Mm-hmm. So right now, I think he's finished up his run on Transformers.
What?
Yeah, it's crazy. And he's Transformers doing wrestling moves like they have.
Wait, who owns Transformers? Because it's not Marvel or DC, right?
This is being published through Skybound. So it's a very weird licensing deal.
Okay.
But basically, he talks about how he has his creator-owned stuff where he is free to do whatever he wants, but is also constrained by that freedom because he needs to establish the rules of this world and how it functions. And then with the licensed stuff, all the pieces are already there. You just need to fit in their tone and how things work.
Right.
But I think that's what makes Do a Powerbomb so unique because it's really his own vision of this world. The fact that tragedy and comedy can exist side by side so easily, it's because of how he constructs this world and the rules of this world, which really match wrestling.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're hitting the nail on the head. I was trying to articulate why this worked so well for me. Like, I actually think tonally, it's perfect. Right, it's the perfect balance of humor and like heart-wrenching stuff. Now that you mention it, it is so similar to the world of wrestling, right? Where it's so ridiculous and it goes back to kayfabe, right? You suspend your disbelief and these crazy people are doing flips and, running into each other when they can clearly just not run into each other.
Bouncing off the ropes.
Yeah,
all that,
But you lean into it and it's so ridiculous from the onset, but then supporting all the action are these underlying narratives that, again, in the pro wrestling world are fake, but in this world are real. It just blends that whole like real and not real, heart and humor, and it works perfectly.
Yeah, and if I could boil it down to like one quality that makes it work, it's the earnestness. Right? There's nothing glib. There's no quips. There's no like winking at the reader. The silliness is taken as seriously as the tragedy. Like we have orangutan wrestlers, and then we also feel very sad for them because they're going to lose their sister.
Yeah.
It's not like, look at these crazy orangutans. It's like, no, they're just from another planet. They're here.
And they're very earnest and they're very nice.
They're very nice. I love these two guys.
They're very regal. I mean, I love orangutans as in general.
Yeah.
Great animals, and so I love how he portrayed them, full of respect because these are the kings of the Bornean jungle, man.
Thank you, Dan.
But going back to the kayfabe idea, right? I think also what makes it work so well is that it's like a double layer of kayfabe. It's a double layer of suspension of disbelief because once we get to this tournament, which I think is called the Deaf Life Pro Wrestling, I believe DLPW. Once we get to this tournament, they make it very clear that it's now completely real. Right? And so there's like an entrenchment of the suspension of disbelief. Like as you're reading this book as the reader, you're like, okay, in this story, they are really fighting. But then yet they're still doing the crazy aesthetic, stunt moves. And that just makes you go all in because you're like, flip off that rope. And it just makes it such a joy if you are a wrestling fan, I feel. Maybe even if you're not, to really feel like a deeper sense of like realism to this book that's also fiction and they're fighting orangutans and it's just this weird dissonance, but it works so well is how I feel about it.
No, absolutely. And I think part of that, I mean, we should talk about the art at some point.
Oh, sure.
We should get into the details here. But the way Daniel Warren Johnson illustrates the body is just fantastic.
Incredible.
When they do the moves, they're both anatomically correct and also exaggerated. You can tell this man loves wrestling. If we go to the fight in issue 1 of Steel Rose versus Cobra Sun.
Lona's mom versus Lona's dad.
Yes, correct. But Luna doesn't know it yet because as we learn in issue 3, everyone thought it'd be too confusing for her because she thinks wrestling is real. But there's this moment when Cobra-san is flipping Steel Rose into the stands and it just goes so slow. Not slow. Slow's not the word I'm looking for. It's broken down so cleanly into the various parts of the motion. She's keeled over. He grabs her. He stands up. She's flipping in the air. And then there's a toss. And then the landing.
I mean, and then let's talk about the page turn from that page, which I think is an incredible page turn. After Steel Rose lands in the audience, and then Cobra-san jumps into the top rope, and the last panel of this page, you see his feet pressing into the rope. His hands are poised, ready to do the flip. You know what's coming. And before we get to the page, I want to talk about how clever the paneling is, right? Because the panels are within panels, but then there are certain choice panels, notably the one at the top right and the one at the bottom right before the page turn, where the panel extends out of the border and into the bottom of the page, right? Almost like telling you, follow this panel to see where it goes. And then you turn the page, and it's just this, it's not a full page spread, but it's like a 3/4 page spread of just this like shot from the ground of Cobra-san just in the air at the peak of his, the apex of his flip.
I want to say this move is called moonsault.
That's what they say later in the book. I think.
Yeah.
I can't remember. Yeah, I'm not super familiar with the terminology.
Yeah. But it's a majestic image.
It's so good.
You can just see, this is why it's beautiful. This is before we've gotten into, Necroton, Willard. This is still our world. This is still wrestling as we understand it, right? And in this panel alone, you can be like, I see why people like wrestling. They can know it's fake, but the fact that the stunts, the way they put their bodies on the line, that's still real.
Yes, I've just Googled it. A moonsault is correct. It is the technical term. I was just checking because I also remember I mentioned earlier in the episode that my favorite wrestlers were Matt and Jeff Hardy. And so Jeff Hardy had a move called Swanton Bomb, which he basically did a moonsault, but it was always off like a ridiculously high position, like off a ladder or like off literally like the scaffolding of the arena. And so I wanted to check if Swanton Bomb was like his term. But yes. So anyway, incredible. For me personally, that was a great moment because of my love for the Swanton Bomb, but yes.
I love this. And then there's the lettering effects are by Daniel Warren Johnson. The speech bubbles are Rus Wooton.
The lettering is crazy in this. I mean, it's so prevalent throughout the book. So like on this one, you get the whoa, and then the next panel, you get the crash. But in others, you'll get the audience going, yeah, or wah.
And later, we're going to see my favorite one.
If you've ever been to a live wrestling event, and I've only been to, Singapore Pro Wrestling, which is tiny, the way in which Daniel Warren Johnson does like the lettering for those sound effects, it's not an exaggeration of what the atmosphere is really like, if you can imagine. It's
you
crazy.
You can feel the roar.
Because the thing about wrestling, unlike regular theater, is you are encouraged to heckle. You are encouraged to shout and to get involved, right? And so it's a big part of like that community experience as well. Like you will boo the heel, right? You'll shout things like, and it's funny if you go to the Singapore one because it's very like rooted in Singlish. So you'll be like, go home lah, like, hey, kayu lah, like whatever. you just shout all these things and you're allowed to, and it's almost encouraged, and it's just so much fun. And so I think that the lettering of the sound effects plays a big part in that, right? It creates this kind of raucous energy that is such a big part of wrestling.
That also matches the aesthetic of his regular artwork.
Yeah.
Scratchy, stretched, exaggerated. It all feels in line with each other.
So good. So good.
I want to just bring this up because I forgot to bring this up earlier. So Cobra-san is a luchador.
Yes.
Which is a Mexican wrestler, so he's wearing a mask, which is why Lona, as well as the reader, don't know that he's her father.
Yeah, and to be honest, this is like the most minor plot point. It's like, how would you grown up with your dad and like not found out that he's a wrestler and one of the most famous wrestlers? I mean, yeah, he wears a mask, but like, so that'd be so hard to keep that secret.
Well, actually, it's really funny because it's just, I think part of that is powered by how much he believes wrestling is real.
Well, not anymore.
But in this moment in the book, right?
Right.
So this is a great thing about this comic is that actually Daniel Warren Johnson tells you already who Cobra-san is on like the third page.
Wait, really?
If you reread it, right, when the PA comes on set to break up the family hug, he says, Jacob, sorry to interrupt, we're up in 30. Because they both have to go get ready for the match.
Right.
And at the time you think, oh, he's just saying like, oh, husband of one of the world's most famous wrestlers, let your wife go do her thing. But actually he's saying, oh no, you, one of the most famous heels, one of the most famous villains of wrestling, you gotta go get set up too.
Oh, wow. I mean, there's no way you would know. That is so good. Yeah. I think I must have been on record on this show talking before about how there's something different about the way that the action shots are done here and how it translates when it's in a wrestling context versus like a superhero context. I don't really know why. Like for me, this works so well because part of wrestling is the showmanship, is the crazy high octane, high risk stunts that they do, and that's what it is in real life, right? And then when it's captured in these still moments, in these snapshots of these like truly just like full on extension, and everything, it looks so good, and it's so satisfying because these are the moments that you live for if you watch wrestling.
I do think you're pointing to something quite important, Nat, which is how tactile these fights feel. Right? This is why I brought up the thing about like how slow or how detailed he gets into the motions of what every move looks like. So you can really feel like you're observing something, but very often, like in the superhero comics, they're working towards a deadline. Hey, a punch to the face is really just moving from point A to point B. You were not punched, now you are punched.
Sure. I mean, to clarify, I'm not saying that I feel like the superhero comics that we've read are done in a way that's inferior. Actually, what I'm trying to point towards is about the context of wrestling and why that elevates it to me. Okay, now that I'm thinking about it, for me, it goes back to kayfabe, right? Because, okay, if you've watched wrestling, and especially amateur wrestling, which I have watched a bit of in Singapore, because there's not really many pro wrestlers in Singapore. Most of them are amateur. A big part of what differentiates a good wrestler from a bad wrestler is how much they sell the hits, right? And that's both in terms of throwing the hits and receiving the hits, right? And so you can tell from someone who's green, who's not as experienced a wrestler, it's like, you can tell it's fake, right? And it's not as satisfying. But the best wrestlers make it look really, 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 really real. But then in this comic, because it's a comic, because there's not real people involved, Daniel Warren Johnson can go all the way, right? He can draw the face being caved in close up. You can draw the body being really impacted. And I think just being able to lean all the way into that realism is really satisfying as a once viewer of wrestling, because it's like, yeah, this is what I've always wanted, right? This is the best form of wrestling where there's no holding back, even when it's like it is in issue 1, it's still staged, right? Yeah, so I think that's what I'm getting towards.
Yeah, perfectly put, Nat. And I think that speaks to one of Daniel Warren Johnson's tasks when he started on this comic at all, which was, hey, wrestling already exists on TV. How can I do wrestling in a comic book in a way that TV can't? And I do think this comic really succeeds in doing that. Like the way he uses panels, the way he uses the body, the way he makes the action feel very direct and tactile in a way that it isn't really on TV, because there is some level of faking it.
Yeah.
Here they don't fake it.
And also the way that he brings it to an intergalactic dimension, and then makes it not real. That's, you don't see that much on TV. And where the stakes are bringing your dead mother back to life.
There's later matches which we didn't get to within these issues, where Johnson becomes more experimental with what is contained within the fight, meaning that there's like a concurrent conversation happening that is a flashback while the fight is occurring also.
Oh, cool.
And so he's really putting the emotion in conversation with the action.
But I mean, even speaking of flashbacks, we did get a little bit of that in the middle of issue 1 when Lona's mom gets sent to hospital, right? And you see in this page where the top left it's Lona holding this white handkerchief or some sort of bandana.
Her mom's bandana, yeah.
Yeah, her mom's bandana, right. Sitting with her uncle in the emergency room. And then, we get to a flashback of the mom and Lona, and they're just talking about what happens in the afterlife. I mean, it's just so precious and so poignant. And then as we move back to the present time when the dad comes and breaks the news that the mom passed away, you still get the remnants of that flashback in the speech bubbles, right? The mom is saying, I'm not going anywhere for a long time yet, just as the dad emerges. And that kind of overlap, I think that's the same vocabulary as you're alluding to, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That precise like juxtaposition. Nat, do you want to colorify this conversation? Because there's actually, I see a color thing here, but this has been your specialty so far.
Oh, I don't know if I see it the way you see it, so you should.
Okay, let me go for it. Let me give it a go.
Yeah.
This 2-page sequence that Nat is describing, which starts in the emergency room, goes into a flashback to Lona's room, and then back to the emergency room. I think Mike Spicer is doing some fantastic things with the colors here. right? So at the start, we have Lona sitting on a chair, holding the bandana in the realistic setting on the emergency room. The next panel is a side profile view, and now the background is washed in sort of a lilac purple, which is the root color of Lona's room as we see in the next panel. Her bed sheets are purple, the curtains are purple, the posters are purple, everything's tinged with purple except from the light coming from the nightlight. We get more and more of this purple.
Oh, I just noticed that the ceiling of her bedroom is the black with the stars.
It's also fisheye. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Crazy.
It's a really beautiful panel. And then as we continue on, they're having this conversation. The background goes back to lilac as Chua kisses her daughter on the cheek. We go back to realism. Lona sitting in the emergency room. Next panel, we go close in on her face. The background is fake again. The background is lilac. It's washed over. She's still in the memory. And then the next panel is Jacob breaking the news in tears saying she's gone, baby. The background is orange, which is the same orange as the emergency room letters. I think it's just fantastic work by Mike Spicer, who's bringing us in and out of these memories in a way that is like acting beyond just the image itself. And the same color of emergency is the same color of the next page, which starts with 10 years later. The 10 years later is in the same red. And so we're still keyed into the ramifications of this day.
So we read the last 4 pages of issue 2, in which
Yes.
basically it's Lona confronting Cobra Sun, you know, and being like, hey, let's form a tag team. Let's go do this intergalactic thing together because I think you want to right the wrong of killing my mom. And yeah, it's a great conversation, great writing. And I was like, why is Yen making me read this? Like, I guess he wants me to learn that they're going to tag team together. Sure, okay. Get to the 3rd page. She calls her dad. Page turn. Boom.
Dad is Cobra Sun.
Dad is Cobra Sun.
In our last episode, our guest Ritesh Babu said that some of the things that separates like the really great comic artists is their ability to draw a conversation.
Yes.
And I do think Johnson is excellent at drawing conversations, as good as he is at drawing a suplex. Because they're really engaged and the paneling is just very intuitive and you really want to know what's going on and you can feel the character's body language communicate something else.
Yeah. And also, what is wrestling but a conversation with the body?
Profound,
huh?
Good job, Nat. Good job.
But yeah, you're so right. I mean, the way that the panels are composed, the angles of the face, the close-ups, and then you get a very good mix of close-ups, wide shots. It's just so dynamic and so...
Yeah, dynamic is a great
And
word.
it's also very propelling, right? Like, it moves the conversation along. It's not just 2 talking heads. I just want to focus on this one random panel on the first page that I read of issue 2, just the one that it's in the white space, so it's not really in a panel. Like, what kind of angle is that, right? It's like it looks like a CCTV angle from like a top corner, right? But it just works so well in terms of trying to capture. You almost feel like a bit like a voyeur, like it's voyeuristic watching this conversation happen. Yeah.
But on top of that, it also communicates how large Cobra Sun is next to Lona.
Yeah.
Right? Like he has to squat to fit into this frame and she just looks tiny. The thing I was going to say is that if you look at the paneling, like if you just extract the images from these and you just show the panels, you would think this is maybe a fight scene. You would think it's more percussive and more action oriented, but it's really just dialogue. And then there's that wonderful spread at the end that is, again, emotional impact because it's huge and it's nothing physical. It's just Jacob staring down at this mask that has kind of ruined his life. Let's go to issue 3, Nat.
Let's go to issue 3. Let's get to our Orang Abang.
Orangabang.
Look at that front cover. And this is completely on me. I should have seen that front cover and expected the orangutans. Somehow I glossed over the front cover. And so when they showed up, I really was like... let's just go straight to the bar fight. So there's a rival tag team there called FISO. They're kind of being set up to be the major heels of the tournament because in this bar, a dog pees on their foot. And they get so mad at this dog and you get the page done. This is the panel I keep talking about, Nat. This is the panel I want to talk about. Puppy punch!
Where it's just the nicest looking dog just yapping, just like its tongue wagging. And then instead of like a sound effect for the punch, it's like in all yellow, puppy punch.
With the speech bubble with the tail going off panel, there must be punishment.
But thankfully, Lona intervenes and asks a normal question. Hey, who the hell punches a puppy?
I mean, it's so funny because it's like, it can just, I mean, I wonder what was going through Daniel Warren Johnson's head. He's like, I gotta establish that these guys are assholes. What is the worst thing that someone could do?
Yeah.
Punch a puppy.
You know? It's the opposite of save the cat, right? Because if you want to make you know what this is like, if you want to make it clear who's a good guy, you have them save a cat.
Right.
And if you want to make it clear they're a bad guy, punch a puppy.
Yeah.
And they get into this brawl with Faiso, Cobra-san, and Lona. And then just when it seems like things are about to get more dangerous than they should, a giant arm descends, grabbing one member of Faiso with a sound effect of "Tho! Don't crash!" And then we see our two best friends in the whole
This
world.
page turn. Oh my goodness.
Orang Abang.
Orang Abang! It makes no sense!
It's so good, dude.
People, Big Brother!
There's this really funny sequence of panels that mirrors when Lona tells Willard that, oh, actually wrestling isn't real. So, I mean, maybe it didn't make as much sense to you, Nat, but I think it's still very funny, even on its own, where the orangabangs ask, we've heard that your wrestling on Earth is all for show. And Cobra-san says, doesn't pro wrestling work the same everywhere? A moment of silence.
And the orangutan smiles.
And he's like, ah, yes, of course.
We knew they were lying.
Which is basically setting up that in this entire universe, like across the universe, only one planet fakes wrestling. And that's Earth.
Oh. And then they whip out the Polaroid of their sister who was taken from them. And then it's so heart-wrenching. And then you want to root for them.
Nat, we gotta do this. We gotta do this. Let's go to the reveal of the 8 tag teams.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And we need to tag ourselves, Nat. You need to tag me and I'll tag you.
Okay, but to describe this to the listener, and we'll put the panel up on the YouTube version of this, but it's basically like, it's a 2-page spread. In the center, you have Willard, but he's like on the mic, and he's kind of like, welcome to Necroton's Death Life Tag Team Tournament. And then he's like electricity coming out of him. And then you just see like, whoom, like 8 kind of vertical panels. Each one have a photo of the tag team, the name of the tag team. It has hails from their planet and then finishing move, right? And everyone has a finishing move except for Sun and Steel, Lona and Cobra-san, because they just formed. And also we need to talk about how Orang Abang's finishing move is Adam Burrow's Cradle.
Well, we'll see it in a second. We'll see it in action.
But it makes you think, are they riffing off David Attenborough on Earth? Or is there a parallel David Attenborough in their universe who also studies animals? But how does that work?
I mean, this is the funny thing about the thing you're saying about the kayfabe on top of kayfabe.
Yeah.
Right? Which is, why do they have finishing moves and why would they name them if this is a real fight?
Yeah. Didn't even register that. I was like, yep, makes sense. The bottom half is then the brackets where it's like one versus the other team, and then they move on to the grand final. But yes, tag me, Ian. Tag me. Which one am I?
You're 100% Pizza Party.
But which one? Oh, am I both of them?
You're both Pizza Party. You are just Pizza Party, which is a werewolf with a red singlet saying, for the Tsar. And behind him, like a kind of like a classic looking superhero with a cape and like the trunks over the pants and a helmet, but the trunks are a slice of pizza.
Yeah, that's me. I mean, I'm looking at all this and I really don't want to just say that you are Orang Abang, but I think you are Orang Abang.
I think I'm Devil Doers, dude, because I hail from your mom's basement.
Once again.
But I do agree. I do think I could be Orang Abang.
Nah, you're Orang Abang, bro. You're Orang Abang.
And it's so funny that we have this page, which is just really uniquely hilarious. And it's also like, oh yeah, remember, each of these people are fighting for a loved one to return to them from death. Let's get to the match. Let's get to the first match of this intergalactic tournament.
Orang Abang versus Sun and Steel.
Nat, I want to skip a little bit later into the fight to the lariat when the larger Orang Abang just absolutely whips out the biggest fist ever and knocks Cobra-san like literally upside down.
Ah, I see. Yes. I mean, okay. Firstly, let's just get this out of the way. How is he drawing these orangutans fighting? I mean, we talked about the fact that they're quote unquote anatomically correct, but I don't think there is an anatomically correct way to draw orangutans fighting, and yet it's so satisfying. Okay, sorry, I know you want to talk about this lariat, but I have to go 2 pages back, sorry. And this orangutan, horizontal in the air, drop kicking Cobra Sun. I don't even think they can do that. Like, I don't think they can, physically an orangutan can do that. But
I think if orangutans could do that, they would be running the planet.
It's so good. Okay, sorry, and back to your panel. Yes, he's punching Cobra Sun, and Cobra Sun has basically flipped 180 degrees.
But just the way the action lines work, right? The way the fist is so huge and near us.
And breaking through the panel, overlaying over the panel above.
There's a giant sound effect behind it. It is very manga-like.
Oh, you're right.
Right? This is very much like something we'd have seen in Bleach or Jujutsu Kaisen. Like, this is where you can see the influence coming through.
This is where I reveal my hypocrisy.
Yep, because now you like it.
Rooted in racism.
Well, honestly, it's actually colorism, because if it's in color, you like it more.
Yeah, that's so true.
A different type of colorism than what people are used to.
To clarify for anyone listening for the first time, it's because mangas are in black and white that they're not my cup of tea.
Let's get to Edinburgh's Cradle on the next page.
Edinburgh's Cradle.
Something you won't see much of, but you'll see a little bit here is the finishing moves. I mean, it's already off the wall, right? We're already bonkers. We're already going crazy here. And Daniel Warren Johnson, on top of all of that, for the finishing moves, will always introduce some element of what the move is describing into the scene. So did you notice the Sumatran jungle behind them during Edinburgh's Cradle?
I mean, I'm just noticing now, it's genius how he's basically establishing that there are these screens in this arena, showing live camera footage, which again, it's normal in wrestling, but then he's cleverly using it to, one, like you said, bring in certain thematic elements like the Sumatran jungle, another screen showing the crowd, another screen showing Lona's face, another screen showing Willard's face, right? So it's just a clever way to bring in all of these reactions and elements into this single panel.
We'll come back to the rest of the Orangabang fight. I just want to point out the other 2 instances within this book where the finishing move is depicted in this way, right? So one is when Pizza Party does the New York slice, which is near the end, and you see the giant slice of pepperoni pizza.
Oh, yes.
And the pizza has the same motion lines as the werewolf who's kicking. Like, it looks like the pizza's in motion, so you see why it's called the New York slice. And then right after that, the knights get the werewolf into their finishing move, King Arthur's table. And then when they're doing that, an apparition of King Arthur appears behind them with the table. And you can see, you're launching him onto the table. The table, which is actually their knees, breaking all the werewolf's teeth. I love how he's willing to push. Like, it's already crazy. Literally what's happening in the scene is already enough to engage us. And Johnson's like, let me just one-up it a little bit. Let me make these finishing moves really feel special. Which, again, I think is a very battle manga-oriented thing. Right? Like, how can a single image... But it's also wrestling, right? I guess the wrestling moves are also the wrestling finishing moves. Like your... What's it?
Swanton Bomb.
Swanton Bomb.
It's such a big thing of wrestling, yeah. You can't have a fight without it. You would feel incredibly unsatisfied if you watched a Randy Orton match and he didn't do an RKO.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I love when I watched the clip and I saw him do it to the referee.
Do you know there was this wrestler called the Great Khali, and his wrestling, because he's a massive guy, like he was like a giant, and his wrestling move was just like squeezing someone's head until they passed out. And I just thought it was so lame because it just didn't have any dynamism to it. It's just like, ooh. But anyway, on this theme of wrestling trivia, I don't know if you know this, but I thought this was a really interesting thing. So when we get into the first fight between Orangabang and Sun and Steel, they introduce us like the rules of the fight. The referee says, this is a tag team match, meaning in order for both fighters to be in the ring, the active wrestler must tag in their partner to have them participate. Firstly, the fact that he had to explain that, which would never be explained in any other wrestling event, is like, this is to cater to the non-wrestling fans. Okay, fine. But then he goes, each team is allowed to interrupt one pin attempt or submission hold without a tag. So it's really funny to me that they mentioned this because in the real world of fake pro wrestling, this happens all the time, right? Like in tag team matches, basically at any point of time, 2 wrestlers are never allowed to be in the ring. But it's almost commonplace that they will come in together to do a move, right? And then the referee will be like, no, you can't do that. Get out. And then they'll try to like push them out, but then they'll do the move anyway, and then the one will get out, right? And it's like illegal, but then like it's part of the kayfabe, right? You just kind of go with like, oh, haha, they're being cheeky and being sneaky, you know, to interrupt the pin, and etc., etc. But it's just funny that here they had to kind of, because it's not fake, because it's real.
Yeah.
As a reader and as the audience in that crowd, they don't have the benefit of kayfabe to then like allow those kind of illegal interferences. They have to establish that you're allowed to interrupt the pin attempt as part of the rules so that it makes sense in the logic of the universe.
So this point about the tagging in leads to this really, really dramatic moment, because the underlying thing, this is again what I keep coming back to, is that the action always has a thing going on underneath it for Daniel Warren Johnson.
Yeah.
In this fight against Orang Abang, Cobra-san does not want to tag Lona in because he does not want to put her in danger. And she is on the sidelines getting extremely frustrated. And then it finally leads to this really dramatic moment. After she saved him from a pin, he goes for the dive. Big sound effect at the back. Dive!
And then tag!
And then in the middle of it is this like neon colored panel of their hands like clapping. So it's the tag while Orang Abang is chasing from behind.
Oh, I love it.
It's just so dramatic. It's so melodramatic and it's so perfect. And it really sets up Luna to come in such a strong way. We recreate that moment from issue 1 when Cobra-san goes off the top rope with the moonsault. And we see Lona do the same thing here now that she's finally tagged in. And it's the panel structure is almost the same, where this moonsault panel takes up most of the page. And in it, we can see the Orang Abang looking up in fear, the shadow of Lona coming over him. We can see the referee holding his ears going like, oh my God. And we can see Cobra-san in pure shock and admiration.
Of his daughter.
And I think this moment is so beautiful. And the fact that she takes the moonsault not from her mother, but from Cobra-san is even more evocative.
So true.
Cobra-san is so worried about Lona becoming her mother, becoming grievously injured in the ring. But in this moment, she embodies him instead.
Yeah. And we get another kind of like flashback moment. Oh no, but it was earlier when we get the flashback of the dialogue of a conversation that Jacob has with Uncle Blood, where the uncle says, Jacob, your daughter, she has the fire, true, raw, unbridled talent. She's got what her mom had. And all that is overlaid over as she prepares for this moonsault. And then when she executes it, it's like...
The first time I brought this up was in the Junji Ito episode of like, if you could tattoo a panel, what would it be? This is a tattoo-worthy composition. Like, it's just so much fun.
Yeah. You know, we've talked a lot about page turns on this show, right? This idea that you turn the page and you are hit by this reveal. Often, sometimes it's subverting expectations, sometimes it's fulfilling expectations, but then in a way that you couldn't have imagined. But I think something this book does really well, I don't think it's the first book that we've read to do it, but this analogy is coming to me, I think, because right now I'm in a midst of a heavy sound design project that I can't reveal right now, but Yan is also involved in that. But I've also been doing other sound design stuff. And a big element of sound design in any mediums, whether that's film or podcast or whatever, is the idea of a riser or a whoosh, right? Where you would have a build-up. The function of a riser is to accentuate an impact, right? So you would have a and it can either go to a boom or it can go to a silence, right? So it can either subvert or it can fulfill, right? And I think we've talked a lot about the impact at the moment in which you turn the page, but something this book does really well is the build up to that page turn. It's the riser, right? And so that moment we just talked about where he throws in, out of nowhere, he throws in these flashbacks of dialogue between Cobra-san / Jacob and the uncle talking about Lona as she is preparing for the moonsault. Is such a perfect riser because you can almost hear the music building in the background. You can hear the swell.
Your daughter, she has the fire.
True, raw, unbridled talent. She's got what her mom had. Boom, moonsault, right? It's just so well executed. Yeah, and the impact is, and you know it. Do you get what I'm saying? Like how
I do
that
get what
works?
you're saying.
Yeah.
Something about the way Daniel Warren Johnson does his comics. They feel like comics you can hear. I'm not sure if that's just because I really love Murder Falcon, which is one of his earlier books, which I mentioned. And that's a comic that's really about music. But it does feel like you can feel the tempo and the percussion and just the sheer like escalation in volume that happens with these matches, and then also in the more intimate moments. Well, Nat, redundant question.
Yeah, okay, I'll keep reading. Next. You kidding me? Of course I'm going to keep reading. I want to go back and read issue 2 first, and then I'm going to keep reading. Oh my gosh.
I love this book. I really do love this book, and I think people.
I want to
really
buy
give it a
this
go.
book. Is it available in like an omnibus or like a?
It absolutely is. Actually, Nat, if you have yet to find a Manchester comic book store, you should, because it's likely that they would carry Do a Powerbomb.
Oh, I'm actually so tempted to just get it and put it on my coffee table and make anyone who comes to my house read it.
Look at Orangutans! Look at him!
I had to go to the washroom. No, read.
Let's get to it, Nat. Come on.
1, 2, 3, 4. Pipeline, pipeline. Come on, everyone, it's pipeline time. Ding-ding-ding-ding-ding.
Can you imagine if that was your like walk-on music? Everyone would boo.
It would be our walk-on music for our tag team duo.
No, that's terrible. That's terrible. But who do you think would enjoy Do a Powerbomb?
You like wrestling.
If you like wrestling, you would like Do a Powerbomb. Easiest answer.
This is also low-hanging fruit, but if you've seen the film The Iron Claw, which is also about wrestling, but I genuinely, I really enjoyed that film. Zac Efron is really, really good in it. I watched it on a plane and therefore I cried. Because if you know me, I only cry when I watch movies on planes. Something about the altitude. It's scientifically proven.
It's true. It's the humidity or something like that.
Yeah. But, the thing about that movie is that it takes this world of wrestling. It goes into the interiority of like what happens behind the scenes, what happens in training, what these real people are struggling with, and then got to get on stage or in the ring, and put on a show. And to some extent, then it diverges because this is no longer a show, this is real fighting. But I think that combination of the spectacle, I think that's a word we haven't used yet, the spectacle of wrestling, but with the heart and heartbreak and interiority of real life, and bringing those two things together, I think that film does it really well. And if you like that, you're going to like this comic very much.
Great answer, Nat. I think my answer, I have two answers. One, I think, is if you like Dragon Ball.
Oh, okay.
If you like battle manga, if you like battle anime, if you like things that are about fights, but the fights are really about more than that, you're going to like Do a Powerbomb. And the other thing I would say, and this is like, I guess we didn't really talk about it, but this was something that our producer and I were talking about before we brought Do a Powerbomb, which is we thought we'd talk more about it being kind of a sports comic.
Sure, yeah.
Because wrestling is a sport, right? Wrestling is athleticism. And so I think if you like something, really, this is going to be a bit strange, but if you like A Map to the Sun by Sloan Leong, which we read earlier, which is about a sport, but it's also not, which is very much what Do a Powerbomb is, even though the sport is way more forward. But if you like sports stories, I do think that Do a Powerbomb will have something for you too, because it plays with your sympathies in a similar way.
Sure.
Nat talked about this earlier, where you're kind of rooting for both sides at once, right? You want Orangutans to win, but you also want Steel Sun to win as well.
Yeah, it's the idea of a competition, right? The idea of there being a victor and a loser and what's at stake. I think that's always key, right? I will add one more thing to this end of the pipeline. I will say if you are a fan of orangutans, chef's kiss. You're going to really enjoy orangutan doing a drop kick, Something I never thought I'd see or say in my lifetime, but I'm so glad that I have done both.
And now for the last part of the pipeline, right, which is if you like to Do a Powerbomb, what else should you read? I think you should read, and I've brought it up multiple times already, Murder Falcon. Murder Falcon is also another collaboration between Daniel Warren Johnson and Mike Spicer, so the colors are also really vibrant. I think it's really exciting that these two have worked together on so many different projects, because you get the sense that they just understand each other. They know how to elevate each other. Mike Spicer knows how to bring the colors in, and Daniel Warren Johnson knows, okay, Mike Spicer is going to make this pop.
Yeah. I mean, that's the mark of a great collaboration, right? When the product is greater than the sum of its parts. And
absolutely,
you can just see that both artists are elevating the work of the other. Yeah, and hopefully that's what this podcast is, right, Yen?
Yeah. And our tag team, Comics Ends, when we enter the ring.
Panel X panel!
And also, not to neglect Rus Wooton as well, the letterer, who takes fairly clunky bits of, I mean, I wouldn't say Daniel Warren Johnson is sparing in his dialogue. There are quite a lot of words.
Yeah.
And it's very clear. It's really clear and it's very evocative and you always know what's going on. And I think that's really a testament to Wooton's skill. But yeah, if you like Do a Powerbomb, read Murder Falcon. Another book about insanity and also sanity, except through the lens of, well, kaijus and heavy metal.
Of course there are kaijus. Of course
Literally,
there are kaijus.
Daniel Warren Johnson could not be more my guy. I'm kind of curious to see what you think of the ending, Nat, for a very specific reason, but I won't say why.
Don't put any money on me finishing it before our next episode recording.
I won't. Not at all.
Hey folks, Nat from the future here. So guess what? I actually finished Do a Powerbomb the very next day, and we immediately recorded an after show where we discussed the whole comic, including its bonkers ending. And I even got to flex some of my more theological muscles for the first time. So if you've read Do a Powerbomb and want to process your emotions, share your excitement, or just decompress, we hope you check out this episode's after show on our Patreon, link in the show notes.
Speaking of our next episode, there will be nothing for you to read if you want to prepare for it.
Okay.
I'm speaking to the listener.
Oh yeah, because I'd never read anyway. I was like,
Yeah,
oh yeah.
Yeah, this is not new for you. But we are doing a little bit of a special episode for our next one. We're excited to do it. Bit of a change in the formula, but we're looking forward to it. So just keep your eyes peeled for that and ears.
I was told there will be some shopping involved.
We will be engaging with commerce.
Commerce sans, guys.
Yeah, it would be a terrible tag team duo. I do want to say one last thing about wrestling, though. I do think it's funny. Like, I am the heel and you are the face. Like, that's just undeniable.
Yeah.
Like, outside of this podcast, in our lives,
I don't know if there are any tag team duos that combine a heel and face into one.
and that's why I'm struggling to think of, like, I think it would have to be like there's some other tag team that is so powerful. It's Mojo first. It's Matt and
Like
Allison.
we have no choice. Oh,
But to
Matt and
team up
Allison.
against Matt and Allison. Shout out to Matt and Allison, who also did a great episode on Do a Powerbomb that I listened
Escape
to.
the Mojoverse. Check them out on all your podcast platforms. But yes, friends of the
And
show.
when you listen to them, now imagine us wrestling against them in a tag team tournament, in an intergalactic tag team tournament.
Someone pitched this idea to Daniel Warren Johnson.
Well, that's everything from Comic Sans.
Thank you for supporting us. Thank you for listening. Also, I want to shout out, I think there are still the Comic Sans Journal notebooks for sale on the Anas Productions website. If you want to get into a little bit of doodling and sketching out some comics for yourself, check out that notebook that has panels built into it already. Every purchase supports this show. So yeah, thank you. And Yan, you want to sign us off?
Thanks everyone for listening, and we'll see you on the next page.
See ya. Thanks for listening to Comic Sans. This is an Andas Productions podcast hosted by Myle and Nathaniel Ma and produced by Scott Lee Chua and Roshan Singh Sambhi. This episode was audio edited by Maddy Searle and video edited by Kit Ling Leong. Our cover art is by Isabel Fang with motion graphic animations by Kanikni Studio, Maryana Rudakova. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to rate and review Comic Sans. And while you're at it, follow us on social media at Comic Sans Pod. Links are in the descriptions below.